You're listening to Stellar Success, Leveling Up for Medical Pros with Dr. Tudor Francu. Join us as we explore how medical professionals can achieve stellar success in all areas of life. It's time to level up.
Hi, everyone. We're back at Stellar Success. This episode is about someone who had incredible success in her career. And I want to introduce you to Dr. Audrey Durrant. How are you, doctor?
I'm good. I'm feeling my head's really blown up right now. You have to call my mom and tell her how successful I am as well.
So just want to start for the audience, just to give a little bit of a glimpse of your story so far. Where did you start? How was your journey and where you are now?
So I started in Jamaica. Actually, that's where I was born. And we immigrated to Canada. There is a large Jamaican population in Canada. I still haven't figured out quite why, other than the colonial connection. And I was going to be an astronaut or a ballerina, and had to wear glasses, so astronaut was out. And I ended up having one leg longer than the other from a childhood accident. So that was a very lopsided ballerina. But I needed what's called an epiphysiodesis, which, if you are at all familiar with orthopedic surgery, they stop your growth plate in the longer leg so that the shorter leg could catch up. I'm actually the shorter one of the taller members of my family at 5'9".
I see.
So that connection with my pediatric orthopedic surgeon was where I was introduced to medicine, since there was no one else in the family who was a doctor. And that's how I kind of fell in love with medicine. And I decided that that was going to be my path, since I wasn't going to go to the stars or be on stage.
That's awesome. That's an awesome story. And so you're a practicing pediatric surgeon currently, correct?
That is correct.
All right. Where do you practice?
So I am here in Champaign, Illinois. I came here to go to Carl, and that is its own story in itself. And currently I am doing locum, which is Latin for in place of. And my next plan is to take me out of the country, hopefully, to go overseas.
Awesome. That's great. That's a great goal. This is a podcast that is addressed to people like ourselves, medical professionals who are, successful in what they're doing. They have all kinds of facets of their personality, and they're striving for, bigger goals. What is success for you, and what does it mean?
Wow, that was a difficult question. Success is being able to get up in the morning and do something that you love, something that you chose to do, and do it the way that you want to do for the population that you want to do it for.
Interesting. Yes, that's true. That's a good take on this definition, because probably for many successful people, the fact that they're doing something for someone else to help others, that's the meaning of it, basically. That's a great definition.
That's a definition for professional success. But overall success is to bring your family along with you and have that side of your life also be fulfilling.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it's a complete picture.
that's true. That's true. You are a pediatric surgeon. For people that are not familiar with this specialty, it's a very demanding, I would say, and high risk compared to others in some respects. So, can you give us a little bit of kind of glimpse into your activity, your career in general, and maybe give us an example of some things professionally that were a win, and also something that you didn't necessarily It didn't necessarily pan out for you, and, you know, kind of learn from it.
So pediatric surgery, as it's actually a fairly new field of medicine in specialization. There aren't very many of us in the country. And part of the reason is that the training is so long, and that in its own way, it selects out. You have to be a fully trained general surgeon, and then you apply to a pediatric surgery fellowship, of which there were, I think at the time when I applied, only 45 positions in the United States and Canada, not all of them taking a fellow every year, some every other year. And there were easily 4 applicants for each position. And to make yourself known within the pediatric surgery field, almost everyone takes time out of their residency to do research. So you've done 5 years of general surgery, you do maybe 2-3 years of research to roll the dice to possibly get a pediatric surgery fellowship spot. There are some people who have applied 3 years in a row. It's an early match, so you apply in your 3rd year hoping that you'll get a spot, because if you don't, they allow you the chance of in your chief year applying to something else. You know,
Yeah.
you didn't get it. So already you've made quite the commitment to practice in a field where your patients can't always tell you what's wrong, how long it's been going on. You're often getting secondhand information. A lot of people compare it to veterinary medicine, because a loved one brings them in and says they've been sick for days, weeks. Sometimes the kids haven't told you anything. Parents think it's X, and it turns out to be Y. My example being, I had a child that read the book on what appendicitis was. It was started in the belly, was in the right lower quadrant. Ultrasound looked positive. This was appendicitis. We went in, I took out the appendix, looked kind of normal, but hey, when the pathology comes back and you beat it up enough, it'll say early appendicitis. 2 days later, he still wasn't getting better. And he says, you know, I feel like I swallowed something awful. And you're like, what is that? Turns out the young man had swallowed 3 magnets 2 days before his belly started hurting. He didn't want to tell mom and dad that he had done that. So we went in and we took out his appendix. It was the completely wrong operation. And had we had that information from the young man, and it's not his fault, I mean, but we did the wrong operation. Fortunately, we figured it out. When we did the x-ray, we saw those metallic things on the plain film, but I felt like an idiot, because here I was taking out an appendix in a kid that had holes in his belly from magnets that were trying to meet each other.
Wow. That's an amazing story. You know, this is one of the things that people that are not in medical profession, it's hard to understand. You know, you go in to help someone in the situation like that, and you end up being wrong. And it just means that you're human. It means that you did your best. You treated the condition the way you judged at that time. And it's funny, because being successful in general means that you have to take some risks at some point, either professionally or personally. But how do you deal with taking risks? Pediatric surgery is not, it's not a specialty you have to deal with risks too much, and you have to keep your risk in count. But it's definitely a specialty that is risky in general. How do you manage that?
The first thing you have to appreciate is that it's not you taking the risk. The patient is always the one taking the risk. And you also have to appreciate that they came to you for you to do something. There are many fields of medicine where there, as my attendings used to call it, mental masturbation, where everybody sits in a room and they just think about all of different things that could, but surgeons were meant to do something. So if you're not, you know, getting it wrong, you're definitely not getting it right.
Yeah.
Success goes to the bold.
I love that. That's a great quote. But also success in, especially in your field, it's something that you build over the years. And, you know, in general, medicine, it's a long-term game, right? You have to go study, you have to sacrifice a lot during your young years and study and study and study. But you also have to form some skills and some habits that bring you to some kind of success. Do you have anything in your life at this point that you do on a routine daily basis that you think it's the reason for your success?
I personally think there's two. I have always been someone who commits to exercise. So that discipline, getting up, running in the morning, gives me time to clear my head. It also keeps my mind clear. It keeps me healthy. And I am a lifelong learner. I always have a book. There's always something that I find interesting and intriguing. And medicine changes so quickly. If you do
Yeah.
not stay with it and in it, you will be behind it.
Yes, that's true. It's a continuous education, like they like to say. Um, what about those books and you know, audiobooks or podcasts or things that you want to listen to or read? What are things that you like to do in that field?
So in pediatric surgery, we have somebody who understood that medicine was moving away from books. The reality is, by the time a book is published, it's pretty much behind the game. We
Hmm.
have Todd Ponsky has started what's called Stay Current, and it is a website. It is an online app that is crowdsourcing and is constantly bringing in what is the pediatric surgeon reading or should be reading, and it helps you stay on top of things. There are also there's also a Read Now app that tells you, what are the newest, latest articles that are in your field and outside of your field, because you need to stay on top of what other disciplines are doing as well, so that you can incorporate it, know what they're doing. Sometimes people will bring things to me and be like, I've never heard of that. But,
Yeah.
as I've always said, Google's free. That information is out there, and you have to be someone who's facile at getting it and incorporating it.
Yes. Yes, that's true. It's not only learning new things, but also try to think outside the box, I would say, and get out of the comfort zone. Um, is this something that you do a lot? Do you try to get out of your comfort zone a lot? It comes with taking risks, obviously, but how do you approach that?
I like to consider myself an early adopter. I want to be the person who's trying the new things. The thing with pediatric surgery is we get the trickle down from adult surgery. So we're usually the last adopters in general surgery. Robotic surgery has been present in adult surgery for decades now, and we are just kind of slowly moving into that area. And you have to be willing to change your practice. I still have attendings who refuse to adopt laparoscopic surgery because they were taught open. They say, I make a tiny little incision and I'm good with that. Well, that's great. But when you're a 16-year-old girl, every scar is the end of the world. All right. You see
Yes.
it every single time you put on a bikini. It's horrible. Every guy
Yeah.
hates you because you have that scar. It's not real, but I'm sorry, you can't be in the body of a 16-year-old girl in the mind of a 16-year-old girl. That scar means something to her. And because it means something to her, it means something to me as well.
Right. That's interesting. Yeah. And obviously, like you said, the advances in medicine, especially in a specialty like surgery, are constant. Like every year, something changes, um, and you have to keep it up really fast. Now, I want to kind of switch gears a little bit to you personally as a successful person in general. Do you have any kind of daily habits other than running in the morning? Do you have anything incorporated in your daily routines that you like to do and are successful things?
It's hard to say whether or not they are the thing or is it not the thing. I I journal, I write things down. I do that in the operating room. I write down my surgeries, but I also write down the day. How did I feel about the day?
Hmm.
And, I do pray. Whatever religion that you believe in, it is nice to know that someone has my back in the operating room. And so those two things, being introspective of my own mistakes and being accepting of what I can't change in the world, I think both of those things are helpful. I've been a lifelong vegan. I don't know if that means anything. I've been trying to save the planet forever. I'd like to think that that counts for something.
Yeah, that's definitely something interesting. And this is part of the being a successful human being. Incorporate all those routines and habits on nutrition, on fitness, um, on daily exercise into your life, right? And that's what keeps you up on your toes. Because as a surgeon, I imagine you have to take calls, you have to be ready all the time for emergencies, or people think that being a pediatric surgeon is it's something very special, and I'm in awe of people that are doing what you're doing. As an anesthesiologist, I did 6 months of pediatric training as a semi-fellowship, at the end of my residency, and I was put in the situations that I never thought I'm gonna be in. Very difficult, very special, and we tend to think things are the same as in adults, but they're not. um, it's kids it's a different species, I would say, that you deal with, in a good way. And but you have to be very careful and very attentive to what you're doing. Um, is is in your life in general, there's been a lot of talk during the medical, in the medical field, medical professional field, of different kinds of passive income streams, because we as doctors in general have a high income. In general, we are well off, but sometimes we can work until we die. So, there's been a lot of talk about creating some kind of passive income streams during our life. How do you deal with this? What's your opinion on those things?
I wish I was more financially savvy. I wish we were, as physicians, more business savvy. That is something that I feel that is a black hole in our education. We come out of
Mhm.
residency and fellowship, and we don't understand our worth, and we don't understand how our lives are going to change. You go from eating ramen noodles every night to all of a sudden you are in a totally different income stream and you don't know how to handle that. I'll be honest, that is something I have not mastered or figured out. There are other things that I'm doing with my life, but they are because I enjoy them. If they also bring money, it is a happenstance. It was not the goal.
I see. Yeah. Yeah, and that's one thing. that in general, medical school and school in general is not performing on, the financial education of people like us, professionals in general, not only medical professionals, but in general, all kinds of professionals that are not financially educated at that kind of level of income. And most of the time, we make a lot of money, but we spend a lot of money too. So that's where some kind of financial education needs to be done at this level of education in general for us, because I think we could have done much better in general for ourselves till the end of our careers if we had started maybe investing earlier, or know how to invest earlier, or have some kind of concept of how to run a business, for example, or getting into those financial aspects that most of us have no idea.
I agree.
Yeah, it's it's something that I think I'm trying to with this discussion and in general with my podcast to kind of open up the minds of people, like creating at least a question about it, for them to go back and investigate more. But what's how do you what are your goals at this point? Like, how do you see yourself 5, 10 years from now?
My statement has always been they're going to take the scalpel out of my cold, dead hand. But also, I'm a mother, so I have a responsibility to make sure that I have that next generation of my child moving forward. And as a Black woman, with what I've seen happening to physicians of color, I need to make sure that the door stays open, the platforms are available, and that we network each other. I am creating, I think, spaces for that to happen, and I'm trying to make sure that I am not the last of the cohort of the Black female pediatric surgeons.
That's important. Yes, I agree with you. Do you have any efforts in this respect that you're doing?
So right now I have a newsletter, also associated with my website called White Coat Green Room. And with that, I'm also in development for an app that I hope will address some of the issues within the minority population. The White Coat Green Room was meant for physicians, and I'm also in the development for an app called Inclusive Health Match, and that's for minority patients to help them identify culturally competent physicians, to be able to find them. They can find each other. And I'm hoping that this app will also provide a large amount of data on patients, minority patients, as we have been historically outside of clinical trials. And so a lot of the outcomes and data don't necessarily apply to our population. So it is a big ask, but big dreams will get you a little bit closer, and I hope to that. And honestly, I think that the way that we can be stronger is together. Many times I hear stories of how minority physicians have felt targeted in hospitals, and we haven't told each other these stories. And as a result, we feel shame. We own something that doesn't belong to us, and we don't move forward.
That's very interesting. I like the project. It's something that not many people think about on a bigger scale, but I'm sure there is room for a lot of improvement there. Um, and have you had any success of doing things like this so far? Do you have a plan to reach some kind of goal?
So do I have a plan? So Inclusive Health Match is actually in development right now, with an accelerator group, and I'm hoping that we'll have a prototype out by the end of September. The website has been getting some traction. People are reading it, and I'm hoping that just the knowledge itself is going to be helpful. I do try to put links on the newsletter based on particular topics. My last one was on physician suicide, and there were links in that. So I'm hoping that this election cycle, this time when people are having these discussions, that my name, our website, the app's involvement will all kind of come together. It'll be the perfect storm, I'm hoping.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great idea. I hope, I'm pretty sure probably with your success so far and your drive, I'm sure you're gonna reach some good people to help you out from this point. And as you said, it's very important to network with the right people. We are the average of the 5 people we hang out with, and it's good to see people thinking about their net worth being their network. How do
You are,
you how do you approach this in your life?
I do believe that you are the average of the 5 people around you. You don't get to choose family, but you get to choose everyone else. And you can make a decision about who you want to be going forward, and making sure that the people around you want you to be successful as well. They don't necessarily have to be active in that success, but they definitely they want you to be successful. And I think that that's important.
Yes, I agree. Um, if you look back when you started your medical career and you have yourself in the mirror when you're very young, what kind of advice would you give yourself, knowing what you know right now?
This might seem like a strange answer, but don't go to Florida. Would have been one of them. In my research year, I went to Florida on a family. It was a reunion, and on the second day, I was struck by a car crossing the street.
Ah,
I was in a coma. It took some time out of me. I'm not the same person. I run with a brace. I have some scars. I don't know if you noticed, I have a trach scar. I was a patient for a long time, and many thought that I wouldn't survive. And if I did survive, I'd just be eating Jello through my G tube. So
how old were
definitely,
you?
oh gosh, you're not allowed to say my age. But it was my first year of research, so my second year of residency.
Wow.
So that was a big deal, to be a patient on this side of things, knowing that I came through it. It makes things different. I will never order a mechanical soft diet for anyone. It's disgusting. And having been a patient, there definitely gives you some perspectives. Would I recommend it? Absolutely not. And definitely not be as naive. I trust people, and sometimes that has not, they've not, followed through on that trust. It's been disappointing, but I can't change who I am, and I actually don't want to.
That's interesting. How did you overcome this moment in your life of being a patient without your um, control, basically?
It was difficult. I was mad. I was mad for a very long time. And I think my anger propelled me through a lot of it. Again, the expectations for me were very, very low. They were just to, at best, be able to do my ADLs or activities of daily living. Definitely not go back to being a physician, and definitely not going back to being a surgeon.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I want to get to, because not only you stopped your life, you were in danger of not having a life anymore, but you picked up that life and continue like never happened.
I was mad. I don't know how else to say it. I was mad that the world wanted to end my dreams. I was mad that the world wanted to go on without me. And I was mad that people were going to lower their bar for me so low. Um, Honestly, every day my mom was like, "You don't have to get up. You don't have to do anything." I'm just, no, I want to go back to work. It was this constant fight to go back to the life that I had before. And then the fear of going back to my life and having people compare me to the person that I was before that and not living up to that. So both of those were incredibly scary. And I did have to go through therapy. And I would say 5 years ago, I would not have been able to speak about it. I was still hemming and hawing over why my residency took a little bit longer than everyone else's. But now I realize that crossing that street, getting hit by the car, wasn't my error. It was someone else's. And it's a story of resilience, and it's not a story of weakness.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, sometimes things happen for a reason in life, and I think, you know, you became so much stronger, I would say, and I can see it in your drive, in your power, and in your success, basically, right now, because you became what you are right now, maybe from some failures or some setbacks that you had in your life. And I'm I'm deeply you know, grateful you're here with me right now talking to me in this podcast. But you know, it's interesting. You know, I love to learn more, and I love the audience to know more about your project and your website. How can someone get in touch with you and learn more about what you're doing right now?
So I'm on LinkedIn, and the website is whitecoatgreenroom.com. And hopefully Inclusive Health Match app will be out in September. And always I am happy to hear from people and get input, because the tech world is not my world. I'm just happy that I can get Netflix and get it to work. But I'm willing to learn, and this is an exciting new time for me.
Yeah, that's amazing. I wish you real success in this endeavor. It's fascinating, and it's a project that probably will mean a lot for a lot of people.
I hope so.
Thank you very much, Dr. Durrant. I really appreciate you being on the show, and hopefully we'll follow up later on to see how things are developing.
I look forward to it.
Thank you.
That's a wrap on Stellar Success, Leveling Up for Medical Pros with Dr. Tudor Francu. Interested in joining us? Go to stellarsuccesspodcast.com/guest to apply. Stay stellar and level up.